I was repressed through anatomy, sexuality, emotion, and psychological maturity because I wasn't allowed access to anything that didn't 100% agree with their beliefs, which I found out little to nothing did, so that kind of makes sense. My parents created education, movies, books, because they were so straight-laced, they wouldn't let me have access to anything but their beliefs. This is isolation. And if it gets to the extreme where the kid doesn't learn about the basics of history, math, and science, I think it's child abuse. Isolating your child with the intention of keeping them away from the evils of the world, I think is child abuse. If you're uncomfortable with your kids facing the reality of life and the realities of the good, the bad, and the ugly in the world, don't have kids. But based on the sex ed these people put out, they probably won't know how to not have kids. That's funny. And at the end of the day, churches don't want queer history taught because it impacts their privilege, their hetero privilege, their racial privilege, their gender privilege. Next time, we're going to talk about why teaching or not teaching critical race theory is important. And there's a big difference between Black History Month, Black history, and critical race. If you're teaching your kids about African American history without teaching them how racism affects minorities' history and quality of life, you're missing out. Just remember, any group, religion, or political party that wants to restrict kids' knowledge of the realities of the world is always hiddenly racist, sexist, and homophobic. Some of the most racist people you'll ever meet are people like Moms for Liberty, which ironically, their CEO got arrested for liking children too much, which is terrible. Because when you use moral superiority and the family, it's easy to fool people that this person's a monster. If you don't offer kids quality of life after birth, you really don't want to protect the children. And you can't protect the children when the religion you've created, all denominations have harmed kids. It doesn't wash. You can't say you want to protect the unborn without providing a quality life after the fact, or that you set up dynamic, abusive situations in church and stonewall and gaslight people when someone actually hurts a kid. I think the worst people in the United States are hiding their horrible ideology under protect the family, protect the children, the sanctity of marriage, moral and family values. This is where racists love to be. There's not as much racism when people are out protesting, trying to get CRT, critical race theory, taught in school. We need to teach all history, regardless of race, ideology, gender, and whether or not they're poor or rich. Does not matter. But until we do that, we can't become a good country. And because a lot of people refuse to make America great to begin with, there's no time to return in order to be great again. And that's why people who wear the red hat or support the Make America Great Again are historically ignorant. The only group of people that ever had a great America was the white man. So if you're not white, there is no time in American history to go back to be great again, because you never were great to begin with. And that's why I love learning about history. Because when you know history, when you have objective historic knowledge, you can't easily fall for racist politicians. I could smell Trump way back, because the people who wear red, white, and blue and cloak themselves with heterosexual normality, protecting kids, immigration control, I already smell racism, and it stinks. Anyone who has misconduct against women should never have even been a candidate. But since the racist and ignorant voters allowed him to be a candidate, we now all have to live with it. And hopefully the next few generations, when they grow up, people born after 2000, they'll grow up, become teachers, and most of this racism, Moms for Liberty, homophobia will just die off. The people who were raised in McCarthyism and pre-World War II, during one of the most racist times of our country, I think a lot of this racism in negative groups will just have to die off, because the newer generation is different. There will always be racists in every generation. But from what I've seen in the statistics, there's going to be a big difference. You give it 30 years, the people who believe in traditional marriage, majority, will no longer be around to vote. The newer generations, the majority, they want inclusivity. They want people to be free and happy and not fearful. I think once most of the generations born before 1970 are gone, we'll finally be able to have a very different society. And there are some very nice people that were born before 1970. But the majority of people who vote, especially in the last few elections, it does not help us at all. And hopefully, we can do something about it. We just need to start teaching instead of taking things away. Parents don't always know what's best for their kids. And unless you have a degree in psychology, education, and the major educational sources, you don't know what's good for your kids. You think you do. You don't. Just because you can have a child doesn't make you a good, qualified parent. And if parents had to pass a test, half of us wouldn't pass. Because I've met a lot of people from CPS. Qualified parents know that their kids need to be educated. And when parents say it's the family's job to teach sex ed and racism and knowledge about history, my response is, that'd be great, but you're not consistently doing it. When people growing up in your families, your conservative religious backgrounds, have as much education as Carrie White from Stephen King's Carrie, we have a problem. And when the education is not objective from their parents, you have a bigger problem. And later on, in some other videos, we're going to be talking about how each type of belief in religion how it affects people. And the effects are a spectrum. And we're going to talk about that stuff. And by the time we hit 1200, hopefully I haven't missed any really important parts. And if I do think of any more, I'll definitely put them after 1200. Because I'm constantly learning. This month I learned that most of the traditional agenda is white supremacy cloaked as religious relativism. But we're always learning, and that's the nice thing. The difference between a good country and a bad country is the bad country controls how their country gets access to information. I'm thinking of North Korea at the moment. A good country doesn't censor, ban, burn, or penalize people for teaching the realities of bigotry. We should be giving awards to teachers who teach what needs to be taught. And if parents don't like it, you shouldn't have had kids. But based on the background of where these parents come from, I don't think they learned about condoms. So, in a way, we're screwing ourselves. And that's all I'm going to say about it.